Trollord Games. Join the fray.
Hello from the troll dens. Alright, Tim, do we have sound and video and all that goobly goop? We have a Dr. Pepper, which is important. But that's neither here nor there, I suppose. Alright, I'm going to assume that we have sound. How's it going, King Kothar? Wasn't I supposed to do something? I don't know. How's it going, Epi? We're just going to start this stream, right? It's so hot in my office today, I do not know why. Good deal. I couldn't tell, and I had something turned off just before I went live. I don't know. It's been an eventful few days here in the troll dens. And King Kothar, it's going to affect you to some degree. I'm trying to figure out, my brain is 3 ways sideways, so I gotta figure out where we are. What's going on? What's happening? We're here for Ask Me Anything. That's what's happening in this rather chaotic 2 days. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? So what are your thoughts on using physical terrain and minis in game sessions? Well, let's just dive into it, Tabletop Santa. You know, I have a love-hate relationship with those things. I love how they look. I love how the players can follow their minis around, and you can use terrain to show what's happening here and what's happening there, and area of effect and all that stuff. That's great, and that's wonderful. It's a great visual. It stops you from having to reprint 16 times, or to repeat 16 times or whatever. But on the other hand, when I have that stuff set out, I constantly have to interrupt my pacing with stopping. No, put the miniature there. No, put that orc there. Well, the knoll's coming over. No, other side. You know, that type. Or I've got to get up and walk around the screen and dive into it and start moving crap around myself. Then I'm not describing the combat. I'm not running rounds. So it really is a love-hate. I like the idea behind it. I think that I've seen some of these virtual platforms that look like they might be really cool that you could do. So if you could move it from behind the screen digitally, that might be kind of cool. But even then, you're stopping your pacing, you're stopping your descriptions, you're stopping the rounds to have a conversation about, you know, the exact placements. So at the end of the day, where I always land on miniatures, not always, but frequently land on miniatures, is I don't use them. I don't use them nor terrain unless it's a very, very complicated encounter, like 60 orcs attacking 4 characters. Then yeah, I'll get in there and put some minis out. But for the most part, I don't do it. If I could come up with a better way, you know, then I would definitely use them more, because I got an ass ton of terrain from Dwarven Forge and Fat Dragon Games. And I got miniatures that I've been buying since 1,000 years ago. Do you think using minis turns into a war game over an RPG? It's not so much it turns it into a war game as it just, you know, part of the combat round in role-playing games, for me, the combat round should be very dynamic. I was watching a TikTok, kind of conversing with another DM on TikTok, and he was talking about turns. You know, when it gets to your turn, he just kind of made that reference in passing. And I never really honestly think of RPG rounds as turns. Because, you know, though I generally try to go from right to left at the table, I'm always jumping around, depending on who rolls initiative where, how many monsters, what spellcasters are doing this, what spellcasters are doing that. So it gets into this kind of thing. So I don't even think of it as a turn so much as I do just this very dynamic kind of interaction where we're all using dice to beat the living hell out of each other. I keep forgetting you are over 1,000 years old. It feels, let me tell you, these last couple of days, it's been feeling it in a good way. I mean, the amount of work continues to pile up, but it's so very, very hot, and we keep having to go down to the warehouse to get more books out. And it's getting, when you do that, it starts to get jumbled. Things get moved over here so you can get to that, and you don't have time to move this thing back to to that spot and this spot, and then 3 months later you got everywhere and all over the place. Miniatures provide too much information. You lose the fog of war. They definitely mess up the fog of war. They cloud the fog of war, so to speak. Yeah, no. So I use them if it's really complicated, but if it's not too complicated, I prefer just to describe it. And I actually like, I've talked about this before, I like chaos at the table. I like it when everybody doesn't know exactly what's going on, because that's kind of how it is when things are flying in every which direction. While I love miniatures, they do change the game. Even the most experienced players can get sucked into the grid as well. Right, and then then that's what you're doing. You're paying attention more to the 2 hexes you can move, or whatever it happens to be. How's it going, Johnny Nomad? I see future $10 covers. Where? I'm sure there's going to be. We got all kinds of problems tumbling around the troll dens. Not insurmountable problems, but problems nonetheless. All right, I gotta check this out. Zoe's sending over. She sent over the half orcs for the player's handbook. Let me see if I can't get these. I'm gonna post them here so you guys can see them first. You will have a first view. If I can figure out what I did with them. There they are. Alright, so we're going to drop them. How do I do this? I do hit the little plus sign, do a little image, type in half orcs, do this, browse that, hit desktop. There they are. Do that. So these are the half orcs that will go in the player's handbook. So you're seeing it first. I just saw it like 3 minutes ago, and now you're seeing it for the first time here on Twitch. She just did a fantastic job. She always does a fantastic job. Super, super, super stoked on this book. I cannot wait till the player's handbook comes out. It's driving me crazy. It looks great, Epi. The CKG, I'm super stoked on it. This book looks fantastic. They did, Walsworth did a really bang up, wonderful job on it. It's just amazing. I got to use it for the first time Sunday. I'm super, super jazzed. Let's see, while I move miniatures, blah, 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 future afternoon, the episode brought to you by Dr. Pepper. I see you take a swig of the nectar of life. Yes, indeed. I need to get sponsorship from those people. Today I learned how punishingly expensive professional book layout design is. Yes, King Kothar. This is not a cheap business to get into. She did just wonderful. I cannot express to you how excited I am about this stuff that she has done. Those are your half orcs. Let's see. Since painting miniatures became my pandemic pastime, I'm using miniatures for the foreseeable future. Damn it. Yeah, there you go. That's how we were for a while, because Davis and Mac were painting them all the time, so we had tons of them. But I can't paint for shit, so it just doesn't happen. Yeah, she just did a great job. I'm just super stoked on all of these. The gnomes are going to look fantastic. We're bringing the gnome back. We're going to make the gnome into a playable character that everybody's going to love. Yeah, that's my beautiful desk. Oh, hey, and check this out. So my chair finally broke. It is with us no more. So here's my new chair. That's my new chair. It's nice and comfortable. It's wooden. I like wooden chairs. The CKG looks like a big book. It could double as a bludgeoning weapon if pushed and shoved. And it's very heavy because it's full color and we use 70-pound paper. So it's just a monster of a book. I'm super stoked on it. I'm very, very happy with it. And I'm going to go ahead and announce something here. I'm like 90% certain that I'm going to be able to work something out with the printer. But I'm going to explain to you what happened and why the CKG actually hasn't shipped. So you're going to hear it. You're going to hear it here first for whatever the hell that's worth. Let's see. I like the detail packs, armor, tattered clothes, flask. She does a fantastic job with those extra little things that make you think that's someone that's on the road. I had my first episode of Prime Time Painting on the Origins Game Show yesterday. Very cool, even though I knew I know the new books aren't in the store yet. I keep checking anyway. Very soon, Gnomes Hiss. You'll love them. You'll love them, Tabletop. I was very pleased to find a cover artist who paints like the wind, has Rosetta style, and doesn't break the bank. Very cool. The dinner chair will wear out more than your others. Remember to rotate like doggers. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a chair because I can't slot. I can't roll out. I keep having to scoot, and it's just gonna disintegrate behind me at some point. All right, so let me give you guys, before we jump back into the Ask Me Anything. And King Kothar, this is going to affect you going forward. So as some of you may remember, we print our books slightly smaller than 8.5 by 11. They come in at 8.5 by 10.875. And this is, I really don't know how this got started. I think it got started when we were printing back in 2001 and 2002 at a Canadian printer. And the metric system messed up something, whatever, in the conversion when we went over to an American printer and blah, blah, blah. That's what I think happened. Don't know how it got started, but it's been here forever and a day. All of our books are slightly smaller than 8.5 by 11. Well, that's fixing to change. The CKG, they messed up at Walsworth. And the Castle Keeper's Guide, which, as those of you who are familiar, this is a new layout. The cover's a new layout. We got a new logo. We got new titling, all of that shit. That's what the old one looks like. This is what the new one looks like. But they misprinted it. So it's slightly, I don't know if you can see that. I'm just trying to get that even. It is 1/8 of an inch taller than the rest of the line. Now this is an issue. It's not that big of an issue, but it is an issue when we want to package things together in slip cases and stuff like that. But since we're sending the player's hand, because the book looked so beautiful and I didn't want to send it back for a rebind, and since the player's handbook is going to the printers in the next couple of weeks, and we've got 3 books slated to come right on top of that: Gods and Monsters, Player's Archive, Adventure Spellbook. All of these are piled on top. We are working out a deal with them on the Monsters and Treasures to reprint or rebind some of that line to see what's going to happen there. But what it looks like going forward, our books will be at the regulation 8.5 by 11, starting with the Castle Keeper's Guide and the Player's Handbook to follow that, and the MNT not too long after that. Now the good news on that, as frustrating as it is for me, Obsidian, going forward, and this is kind of what I've told them, going forward, everything has to be the 11 size, no matter what, and if they misprinted at the smaller size, then I'm just sending the book back, no questions asked. Here's your book, print it again. When they rebind them, you end up with about a 10 or 12% loss. I don't really like that, because then I have to sort through everything. It's a giant pain in the ass. But it's just, if it happened maybe in December, that would be all right, because then the crew could go down, but it's 7,000 degrees outside. So at any rate, going forward, it looks like the Castle Keeper's Guide will have the new size. Player's Handbook, we're going to kind of retool the entire line just going forward. And there's so many of these books up for reprint, from the Codex of Air to, I don't know, whatever, the Player's Guide to Air. There's just tons of stuff that's out for reprint, and we'll just fix it as we tumble forward. Always blame Canada. Yeah, I don't know, it may not be. My guess is that the Americans couldn't actually, when they sized it, they couldn't get it to the same size as the Canadian printer. I have no idea. I don't know. It happened so long ago, and in those days I may not even have noticed it. I wasn't as particular at that point. How did that work out with that layout? Is there a bunch of bleed? No, the layout doesn't change at all. It's 1/8 of an inch, so it doesn't really matter. It really doesn't even affect the top, because you're talking top to bottom. I mean, the cover itself is 1/32 of an inch, so absolutely nothing's affected. This Castle Keeper's Guide was laid out with the 8.75 or 11.875, whatever the hell it is, and it's perfect. So it doesn't impact anything. It's not enough for the visual to notice. It's perfect. So that I'm not too worried about. You shouldn't be either on your end of it. You should be good. 7,000 degrees outside. It feels like it, man. It has been taking the life right out of me. Absolutely, yeah, go outside now. Is it just hot? So humid down here. Omut, have you been here for very long? Did you hear what I just said about the sizing? But yes, the CKG is going to start shipping it tomorrow. There's been a holdup because of an issue with the book itself, but I believe that we have worked through that I will assume, I'm not going to repeat myself, but I will assume that you heard the jibber jabber that I just said. But it will begin shipping tomorrow. I had to have clarity from them as to whether they were going to reprint, rebind, or help me out printing the Monsters and Treasure again. Now, the really good news on this, for those of you guys who are completionists, this is going to give me a chance to rebind or to redo the Monsters and Treasure, which means I can reach out to Jason Walton and do an alternate cover, just like we did for the Castle Keeper's Guide and just like we did for the Doom of Flachi for the Player's Handbook. So we'll actually get the Jason Walton cover on the Monster book as well as the Peter Bradley cover, which will be very, very cool. That'll be at least 6 weeks down the line. But yeah, Omut, the Player's Archive, and Gods and Monsters there at the printer, being printed now. No, Gods and Legends. And the Player's Handbook, I'm waiting for a couple of pieces of art to wander in. And then the Player's Handbook's done. What's the fourth one? There's a fourth one. Oh, the Adventure Spellbook. Just waiting for Steve Egg to finish editing the Entropy Rooms, and it is done. So here in the next 2 weeks, I fully expect all of this stuff to be finished. I know clearly Zoe's done with the Half-Orcs. That's what you're looking there. That'll go in the race section of the Player's Handbook, and she's done with the Gnomes. Peter finished the Dwarves today, Elf right behind it, and then he's doing the Humans tomorrow, I think. Yeah, I'm super stoked on the whole alt cover for the Monsters and Treasures. And I may, depending on how it plays out with the printer, I may tinker with that text a little bit. Let's see, can I get rid of this picture here? Boom. No, wrong picture. Wrong picture. Let's get rid of that. Alright, let's do that. Alright. Okay. How many new CKG covers will we have? Alt cover. No. Yes, that's exactly right. We've got an equal number of the alternator. I don't know why we have an alternator in here. But we got an equal number of the alt cover and the regular cover. The leather, of course, is for the Kickstarter only, and it turned out insanely beautiful. I saw yours the other day, Omut, when we were pulling them out of boxes. It just turned out really, really, really cool. So that stuff, we'll start rolling that out the gate like crazy tomorrow. Let's see. You know what would be a cool book? The Art of Castles Crusades, an amazing coffee table book. You know, we've done a couple of calendars in the past, and we've done 2 Peter Bradley art books. We have gotten so much art at this point that we could actually fill up an absolutely huge book. Jason Walton has been killing it for a while now. Props to him. He really has. He's just knocked it out of the park. And this Castle Keeper's Guide cover and the Player's Handbook cover are just, and even the Starship Warden turned out beautiful. Just really great stuff. It's nice. I'm very, very happy with it. Let's see, the solenoid went out. Solenoid, yeah, there you go. Quick take a drink of Dr. Pepper. You are fading. It's the heat. You know, and normally the heat doesn't bug me, but this last week or so, it's been getting to me. I think it's because we have spent so much time in the heat, offloading tractor trailer, just moving books all over. And of course, we've got the Robert E. Howard Kickstarter rolling, and it has driven steam right into the Edgar Rice Burroughs art chronology set, and so that thing's been selling like crazy. So me and Todd have been in and out of the storage room, and he took vacation yesterday, so he's not with us for another week. But we've been all over the place, just stomping around in this mess. Cough, cough, cough. Crusader magazine, we're working on it. If I could get one project to print without there being an issue, you know, the Crusader magazine would move up in the line. But this CKG thing, really, we should have already had half of the Castle Keeper's Guides gone, shipped. But I'm sitting on them, waiting to see what the outcome of this discussion is going to be. Finally called today. They called today with you know, I gave a proposal, they gave a counter, and I think we've come to a mutually beneficial whatever. So the CKG and PHB layout from Tullis is so modern looking and high class, digging it big time. I'll absolutely, yeah, thank you. I'll let Tullis know. I absolutely love it. It really stands out, and it just looks sleek, and it's finally done. One of the things that we have had problems with from the beginning is getting the artist, and Jason Walton, as much as I love him, he's the worst about it, is getting the artist to leave space for the giant Castles and Crusades logo and the title. and that's not an issue now. It's all kind of pulled to the top. It's out of the sphere, so they can draw to their heart's content, paint to their heart's content, whatever people do these days. But yeah, I'm super stoked. I'm super stoked for everybody to get it. So we should be. It should really start shipping tomorrow. Like I said, we're gonna get this thing rolling. I know it's all in backer kit. People have paid their shipping. People are ready for it. So we got boxes and packing and all that shit. It should start rolling very soon. During this refresh, should you rename the stream Jibber Jabber with Steven Chenault? Yeah, there you go. It's mostly what this is. What would even be in a Crusader magazine? So we did, for those of you who don't know, back in, I don't know, 2006, 2007, we ran, I think, 24 issues of a magazine called the Crusader Journal. And it was just filled with new character classes. Gary Gygax wrote a whole column on how it all started. There was the Angry Gamer column, there was cartoons. I did an editorial every week. Jim Ward did an editorial frequently. New weapons, new monsters. There was a thing on the world of Aird. So there was a lot of regular columns and then a lot of just stuff that we jammed in there. And it's 24 issues or 26 issues, I think. Fully illustrated, all kinds of stuff. I think we did Centerfold Dungeons for a while. I really, really liked the Crusader magazine, and we ran it until the journal market was just disintegrating. I mean, about that time, magazines were no longer moving, so it was kind of an issue. But I really liked it, and I think about bringing it back as an annual every now and again. It's just I like the idea behind magazines. I'm still very fond of. Oh, hey Jay, how's it going? I'm still very fond of reading Dragon magazine. It's just a good, when I just want some light reading. I just find an old Dragon and I just read it. It's just filled with stuff, and I like that kind of. I like the presentation that a magazine brings, better than the internet or whatever. Stephen, they were awesome, and the compilation was a major giveaway during GrantCon last year. Very cool. I will blame Chuck. He's in Vegas right now doing the Vegas thing. Why are half the trolls on vacation? It was kind of an issue. There you go. Realistically, in the fading realm of disposable print media, is there much of a demand? No, there's not any kind of demand whatsoever for it. How's it going, Retro? Hey, Statler. Magazines started to dry up about 05, 06, 07. And by 08, 09, there wasn't. I know Goodman's tried it a few times. I think he's kickstarted one, and it's really cool. But it's just not the market for magazines anymore. The world has moved on. Older gamers, 40 plus, still love the tangible feel of true gaming magazine. I think they do, and I think that if we tailored this, if we revisited the Crusader magazine and tailored it. Took a little more time with it, I think. Maybe actually hired, Jim Ward edited. He was the editor-in-chief, is that what it's called, of the magazine for a while. Then we might actually be able to find some kind of market for it. I think the potential is there. And Jim gave great leadership in that regard in how to keep it affordable and manage the magazine. He did a really good job with that. So using what we learned under Jim, I think it's possible. I would like to do it, but they tend to be a little time consuming. So I have to make certain that it doesn't infringe upon the Platonscapes, which is what I really want to be doing. Y'all folk, there you go. It would be neat to do a reprint of the old issues of Crusader in a single hardback, maybe as part of a Kickstarter for new issues. Yeah, that's what Ultra Magnus is talking about, David. He's been pushing that now for a couple of months. It's a fantastic idea. It would hardback very nicely. I'd probably do 3 hardbacks, maybe 4, because I want to say it's 36 pages an issue and 26 issues. So whatever the hell that comes up to be. So probably 3 or 4 books. Good stuff, though. Absolutely loved it. Maybe running a biannual or quarterly is the way to go. Probably a quarterly would be cool. But, when you do things like that, you would be absolutely stunned at how fast another quarter is upon you. And you're like, what the hell? What the hell? So it really is finding someone who can edit it, make sure we have a market for it, and content, because the content becomes an issue as well. There was an article in Crusader that was all about demons for CNC. I used that article for 10 years to get by. As you waited for the Tome of the Unclean, Tome, I don't even know anymore. Tome of the Unclean to come out. Yeah, we put a lot of stuff in there. I thought the Crusader was I really liked the mag. I really did. And like I said, I really like magazines. There were some great covers on the Crusader Journal. There were some fantastic covers. I can't remember the artist now. He did about 6 of them. The dwarf with the hammer, giant on the mountain. There's a couple others. Just super stoked. Yeah, very good stuff. Very good stuff. For those of you just joining us, my name is Steven Chenault. I'm CEO of Troller Games, Chenault and Gray. We're just here to just chat about anything. If you have any questions about the company, the industry, Castles and Crusades, Amazing Adventures, Kickstarters we're running, Kickstarters we're not running, just throw them in the feed. We'll do our best to tackle them. We're presently talking about magazines. I liked the Dragon magazine. I never really read the Dungeon much. I assumed it was just Dungeons, so I didn't read it much. But especially the Old Dragon. Shit, fire. Excuse me. Especially the Old Dragon. Really loved it. What if you kind of treated it as a print version of Patreon, where it's full of very from-the-hip, untested ideas and game concepts? That's an interesting idea. I like the idea of tying it to Patreon. I really like the whole Patreon approach to things. So that's an interesting idea. That is a very cool idea. So the higher pledge levels, you get an actual print copy of the magazine. That would be very cool. Or you can even get published. Whatever book about dragons have aired, maybe 10 to 20 unique different dragons, named dragons. Now that would be badass. And that kind of plays into, and this is a little further down the line, something I've talked about, I'm sure you've heard me over, the Gods and Monsters of Air. Because what I have found, because my main, I run a few CNC games, and then we jump all over the place with new games here and there, but the main game I've been running since 2006, they're 15th level. And there's really not much left for them to fight printed, that we have out there that's tough enough. Some of the demons and devils from the Tomb of the Unclean, but by and large, CNC needs some powerful, hard-hitting monsters. Some named dragons would be badass. I could do a whole section, eldritch goblins, named dragons, giants, eldritch creatures, like the Puella Beast, things like that. I think that would be a really, really cool book. Dragons with class levels. Now that's interesting. That would be very interesting. They can already cast spells. So kind of build that into it, so they have certain class skills and whatnot, depending on their age. That's an interesting concept, Owen. You've been running games forever and a day, Owen. What is your highest level? What is the highest level of your tables right now? Have you hit into the epic levels at this point? Dungeon was a mix of dungeons, wilderness, city, mostly one-shots to drop into an existing game. Okay, yeah, there you go. That's what I assumed it was. I never picked it up, and I think that by the time it was kind of big, I had moved on to doing my own stuff, so I didn't pay attention. And I had quit. I can't remember when I quit Dragon Magazine, but Dragon Magazine lost my interest too when it became just. I don't know what's wrong with me, guys. When it just became a advertising venue for TSR products. You could put them all on the Crusader. There you go. We had a thief get to 23rd level. Everybody else is high teens. Very cool. It's a lot of fun. But we definitely need more monsters. We need a little more juice in the game. I'm constantly having to beef things up or make my own, and I just don't have time these days to whip out a monster every Thursday night. 23rd level is pretty cool. And I like high level stuff. I really do. It's one of the reasons I'm jazzed about the Player's Handbook having all the high level stuff in it. It's just cool to go beyond into that epic level of gaming. I actually saw someone on a TikTok video talking about he's a 5e player, and the reason he didn't want to switch to any other TTRPGs is because they don't go a high enough level. There were all these level limits and everything, and I thought that's an interesting. I never really thought about it from that perspective because 5e lets you go as far as you could go. It was kind of cool. But we're fixing that in the next printing, so super jazzed on that. What was a Dragon magazine without an advertisement for Torg in it? Yeah. It just became, it seemed to me that every article, it went from being this kind of, hey, look at this from this angle type of magazine to this is what we're publishing this week and this is why you should buy it type of magazine. There was a few like that. There was, I can't even remember, but back in the early aughts when we got started, it literally, you could buy advertising space to review your own book. It was really funny. I always cracked me up because I'm clearly not going to give it a bad review. Why would you do that? That's insane. Palladium Books. I love that company. The 5e is capped at 20th level, though. Is it? I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. Kids these days not even reading the darn rules. There you go. I have no idea. When it turned into a house organ, it definitely declined in quality for me. Yeah, that's the house organ's a great way of putting it. And it's one of the things I think the Crusader kind of danced around, but we tried to have unique articles in it. And I gotta tell you, and this is just an old timer. I really like newsprint magazines. I don't really like the high glossy, thick module size paper, and that's what we did the Crusader on, and I didn't like it. I didn't like reading it. It's like novels. If I read a novel, I want the paper to be thin and light and airy. I don't want a heavy gloss paper. Now, a D&D book or CNC book, absolutely, it's got to be heavy gloss paper, heavy paper minimally so it can take the beating. But if I'm reading a book, no, I don't want that at all. I want a decent, lightweight, not quite newsprint, but a lightweight paper. Question from the Kickstarter: how much will the print copies cost as add-ons? Do we have any idea yet? I'm gonna say real quick, like $19, $19.99, but I'm not sure. Tim, if you want to answer that, that's probably you can go to the store, and whatever we're charging for Tarzan of the Apes and a Princess of Mars and something at the Earth's Court is going to be roughly the same idea. So people can scoop it up then. Twin level is not good at combating a Mogrel. Yeah, I can imagine. The Mogrel is the Balrog of Aird, and it is one tough cookie. That monster, if played aggressively, will tear things to pieces. With one of them, I ripped up a 20th level party pretty good. How's it going, Green Lantern? Very interesting to hear my friend say his daughter wants to play an assassin because it is the first class you see in the book, so it was the first thing she saw. The poor assassin. Well, I don't know, Statler, if you saw what I did with it. I actually bundled it with the something and the something, class and a half, and multi-classing rules, and put it at the end of the class section. So basically, I just put it at the end of the section. There you go. Let's see. With CNC, you can make most of your character up without the book. Encumbrance and picking equipment take the most time. You can play with some of the rules. Encumbrance is I don't ever use it. I never use it. I use that first paragraph. If you read the encumbrance rules, there's a paragraph, and I wrote it. It said basically ask them what they're carrying, and if it sounds too much, say they're encumbered. That's kind of how I do it. Need some My Little Monsters, I'm telling you, boss. Cthulhu Mythos. Yeah, there you go. I love the Cthulhu stuff. There's probably a ton in there. We need to do some conversions. Yet they're unofficial, though, optional rules for boons to choose from when characters get a certain amount of XP beyond 20th level. May or may not be called boons. Okay, so they don't really go to 21st level. And there's really no end to Castles and Crusades. It ends in the book at 24th level, but well, there's no. It's all set how you can go forward with what you need. You know, what you need. Damn it! I'm dying over here. I don't know what's wrong with me. I need a nap. I'm still walking 2 miles a day, and I should stop because it's hot. But I'm not going to stop. When's it Davis is going to do this immortal levels 25 to 36? I don't know. He didn't even do the 13th to 24th levels. I did those. So who can say? Now, I wrote them up and sent them to Mac, and I think we're going to change one. Todd actually came up with a really cool ranger ability that I like that allows the ranger to heal using herbs, a.k.a. Aragorn, which is very cool. But, what's Davis's next project? What is he working on now? He's wrapping up M4. He's writing the adventure for Tome of the Unclean, and, there's something else he's working on. Oh, he's doing research on some kind of online blockchain or something. I'm not sure what he's doing. Every CK should be required to create a character first, so you can easily say, let's get rid of Evie. You just toss it out the door. Shit's exhausting. It's exhausting to keep up with, and it's exhausting for the players to keep up with as well. You clearly need more Dr. Pepper. Does he real life elixir of health? Yeah, definitely. Good for what else? All right, so I'm going to throw a question out to you guys. I've been letting some clergy druids use the ranger delay poison. Okay, so this came up in my game. Now, a lot of you guys may not be familiar with the way Castles and Crusades works, but so in CNC, you get your action, you get one action around. You can swing or whatever. You can, if you choose, take a combat maneuver as your action. Now, this doesn't necessarily, for the most part, that becomes your action. You parry, you dodge, or whatever. However, there's one called offensive focus. Now, offensive focus allows you, it drops your armor class by 6, and you get a +3 to hit. So you still get your swing, but you get an offensive focus. Now, put that in column A. In column B, the Oathsworn has an ability called combat maneuver, which means they can actually take a swing and a combat maneuver. So, if you have an Oathsworn, you can swing and parry. So you can give yourself an extra 4 AC or something like that. You just have to announce it at the start of the round. One of the abilities that you can do is offensive focus. Now, so since offensive focus, yes, rage, yes. Since offensive focus actually, as a combat maneuver, comes with its own swing, my player, being the young, enterprising, study the rules type player, said, this is what I want to do. I want to offensive focus this. I'm going to, as a combat maneuver, not as a class ability, I'm going to combat maneuver offensive focus. So I'm going to take a -3 or a -6 to my AC and get a +3. Now, as my Adventurer's Backpack Oathsworn class ability, I'm going to offensive focus. So I'm going to double offensive focus. So I have a -12 on my armor class and a +6 to hit. And I thought at first, I was like, no, that can't work. Absolutely can't work. But the more I thought about it, and I started reading the books and reading the combat maneuvers to see if there was any clarity, there's not many combat maneuvers that actually come with an offensive swing other than offensive focus. There's a couple. But I thought, you know what? He's going to take a -12 to his armor class. Absolutely, he can do this. So I let him do it. He ended up hitting. He also gets called shot, so he threw that in there as well. Did a critical hit, all kinds of shit. But it really was the first time I experienced in Castles and Crusades this stacking of abilities. It hammered my monster. However, he did have a 2 armor class, and he got hit pretty hard as the round unfolded. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you have allowed him to stack it? Would you have allowed him to do the 2 offensive focuses as a class, as just a combat maneuver and then a class ability? And like I said, it irritated me at first, but then I thought, it's pretty cool. And the trade-off was huge because he gives. I've never been a fan of stacking abilities. Me either, but this one just made sense. I couldn't figure out any way around it because the combat maneuver. Otherwise, the class ability is useless because he's not getting an extra swing. He's not getting an extra action in that round. If that makes sense. So it was a very interesting 15 minutes of figuring this out. I don't know about that because once you're in a state, I can't see how you can enter that state again. Well, when I'm talking, I see that point, Greg, and that's kind of the role-playing aspect is where my head went. But when I'm looking at the actual rule for that class itself, not CNC in general, but for the Oathsworn itself, his 3rd level ability is to take its swing and a combat maneuver on top of it. So you can swing, roll a d20, and get a parry, and get a dodge, and get a offensive focus. So he offensive focused twice. If you didn't let him offensive focus, then offensive focus for him is useless because he can always do it, whether he's an Oathsworn or not. It didn't matter. It was just a very interesting thing. Here's the part: if it happens once, it's cool. If he does it every round or too often, then it's not fun. That's also what I thought, except he stopped it pretty quick because his armor class was 2. There's no missing him. My monster had 3 attacks and ended up doing 22 points of damage the next round. It was a huge amount of damage. Half of his hit points were eradicated. So it comes with this gigantic risk, right? It's not just something that he does and he gets all of these bonuses. He gets all of these bonuses, but he traded his safety with it. I don't know. It was interesting. It seems a little odd to me to make it twice in the round, but like you said, it really makes him vulnerable after the mad attack. It definitely did that, and part of my concern was breaking the class. I wrote the Oathsworn. I liked the class. I liked the idea of using combat maneuvers. What I probably should have done is specified all of the combat maneuvers that you could use and that you could not use. And in retrospect, and if you toss out offensive focus, then this isn't a problem, right? He can only parry or dodge. I can't think of any other combat maneuvers, but so it was one of those things. And then the other side of me is like, well, you know what? Deal with it. He's really just gone into this blind rage, leaping upon the dude, and he doesn't care if he gets hit or not. And he hit the creature, and then he got hit. In 2 or 3 rounds, he would have been dead had he kept doing, had he kept doubling those offensive focuses. He would have been annihilated. So if you, maybe as a way for the Oathsworn, because I think the Oathsworn is the only class that has combat maneuvers as a second ability. I don't know. It's very interesting. It was a lot of fun. I do love it. Stacking abilities aside, I do love it when players throw stuff at me like that, because then I have to scramble and figure things out and make it work, and that just makes it a little bit more enjoyable. As a game master, because then you're unraveling whatever. I gotta tell you, it's fun running. I mean, it's a lot of fun running these young guys, but they push the limit. I mean, you can tell they're pushing the limit. It's very cool. It gives you AMA content. There you go. That's exactly what it does. I wish I need to start writing down the things that they do. I can't remember. There was a spell that they were pushing beyond its limit the other day, which I'm okay with. It didn't work, but I can't remember what it was. It was just funny. And the players are looking on how to make it work better, right? Yeah, well, that's part of it, I mean, if it's broken, we need to know. If this class is not broken, it not works, we need to know it. And if you don't let them stack, then it kind of takes away its offensive ability. Not completely. They still get to swing and get a bonus to hit and all that bullshit, but so there you go. How can we heal him? There you go. I can't remember what the spell was. It was one of the wizard spells, that I remember. Can't remember. Players pushing the limit make for better riders for game mechanics, in my opinion, so learn it good. Yeah, no kidding. Omo, you should study that, see what you think on that whole thing. Because I think the CKG lists about 20 combat maneuvers now. I mean, I know I may have put them all in the player's handbook too. I can't remember now. We added so much content to the player's handbook. I may have put them all in there. I'm looking at the new CKG right now, page 319. There we go. Rear attack, offensive focus, flank attack. Yeah, there's really not very many that. There's not many that he could do that on. So, I personally don't allow the same abilities to stack like spells. You can't cast Bless twice to get double the bonus. I'm definitely there with you on that one. But this one was just a special case because if I took that offensive focus away, I basically took away his offensive ability with the combat maneuver in the class ability, not the combat maneuver outside of the class ability. It's very interesting. It's very cool stuff. It all gets wonky. I know that one of the armor classes, one of the playtesters, I can't remember which one it was, the Scald, could end up with like a 30-something armor class. It was crazy at like 5th level or something, so we had to redo that. There's always going to be a little bit of power play here and there. At any rate, if anyone has any questions about anything other than stacking abilities, hurl it into the stream and we'll jibber jabber. Otherwise, we're gonna, we've got. I'll do a quick recap where we are on everything. CKG will begin shipping tomorrow. I've got confirmation on the problems, so look for that in the mail. That'll close that Kickstarter out in the next, hopefully, 5 to 6 days. The Player's Archive and Gods and Legends is at the printer, so that's done. That's off of our desk and should be back in late August. Hopefully, the Player's Handbook, we're waiting for 2 or 3 pictures. And then it's done, and then that will be off to the printers, and then the Adventure Spellbook. Like I said, we've got one last thing to roll in, and then it'll get dropped in, and then it's off to the printers, and then we're down to the NPC Almanac, which is laid out and just really needs art put into it. So that thing is almost done as well. So we're looking at wrapping all kinds of stuff up in the next 2 weeks. And what did Gary used to say? The good Lord willing and the creek don't rise. I think letting something happen and providing for a larger setback due to the action stack is probably okay sometimes, just not as a regular thing that players start to abuse. That's always the problem with these types of things. Question, when can I get maps printed from the CKG? I don't know. I need to get with Elisa on that. I thought we'd already done that, but I don't think we have. That we are going to offer these maps through Noble Dwarf to release them that way, so very soon. But I need to get with Elisa on that. I think Chuck was heading that up. How do you generally feel about how power gamers in CNC, players that use the mechanics to provide the best possible statistical outcome for their character actions? I don't generally like that. It's a little bit off-putting to when they're just trying to manipulate the rules and whatever to get the maximum outcome at the table. I would prefer role-playing through it and pushing the envelope kind of in an imaginative way as opposed to a mechanical way. On the other hand, it's there, it's a tool, right? And it's frustrating to be a player at times, especially if you 2 or 3 sessions in a row you can't hit, you're losing initiative, you fail so many checks, you start looking for ways, and that's just Pete had been missing so many times. He was looking for ways to enhance, and he's got a horrible strength. He's got like a 9 strength or a 10 strength. He's got a -1 on his swing. So it's one of those things that I don't like it. I really don't like it, but I do understand it, and I try to just mitigate it when it comes across the table to me, and try to channel it into role playing. Like you mentioned earlier, offensive focus is rage. So play it like rage. One of the things I've done to kind of curtail some of that is to fill in gaps and give attribute points naturally, so that like this 10 will become a 12, so he gains from this and can hit a little better, stuff like that. On the surface, I don't like it. It's very aggravating, and that's sort of what this was. That's why it aggravated me at first when it came at me. I was like, no, can't do it, no. And then he started saying, well, if you say no, then this doesn't, the combat maneuver is useless because I can already combat maneuver. Why don't I get an extra bonus? I can already do this. Why is it even here? And then I thought, well, shit. I asked this before and you gave an answer, but hell, I forgot it. Where does one find the runes of the rune mark while waiting for the adventure spellbook to come out? Adventurer's Backpack and Player's Guide to Air. That has the Winter Runes, the Blood Runes, and something else. I think the Runes of the Initiate. If you're part of the Kickstarter, I should have that book laid out by the end of the week. I mean, we got everything but the runes laid out, and you'll get the digital here very, very soon. So Johnny Nomad, Player's Guide to Air, which you can only get digital right now because it's on a print too, and the Adventurer's Backpack. Stage 5, this has been covered. Will a PHB 8th printing have the same detailed table of contents as prior PHPs? No, it will not. We're closing down the table of contents and we're creating a 6-page index. So though it won't have a table of contents, it will have a very detailed index so that you can get to wherever you need to get very, very quickly. And of course the PDF will have the bookmarks, so you'll see a lot of the detail in the bookmarks. But yeah, we're going index this time. I've got 6 pages cleared for it. I can start doing that now because it's done. And the book is nothing's moving in the book. Now, I was a little nervous that the race class, that the race pictures would knock my page count wonky and I'd have to move some stuff around, but we don't. It's going to fit perfectly, and so the page counts are all set. The spell thing's all set. Everything's set. Now I can start doing the index. I completely forgot about that. So I need to get back on that. My own take on power gaming has evolved over the years. I strongly dislike manipulating rules, but I'm strongly in favor of players using advantages that make sense within the game world. That's kind of where I am, Decimus. My knee-jerk reaction is, I don't want to do this, but then I try to remember how frustrating it is to be a player, especially if your dice don't work for you in a number of sessions. It gets very frustrating, and it gets exhausting. And you just, and it gets harder and harder to play. So I'm mixed on it. I try to tamp down my knee-jerk reaction. Roleplay is the ultimate power gaming. It is, and that's the key, I think, really, to teaching everyone power gaming is cool, but you don't have to power game. You actually can role play through these things and push stuff. And the more you role play, and doing things like calling on the gods, whatever it is, you can get more out of it, I think. No problem, Johnny Nomad, no problem at all. Let's see, power gaming goes together with the minis and battle mat discussion. They can quickly eat up game time counting squares. They can. And that one did. That one took a little while to, hack away. How's it going, any day? Let's see, I play CNC with a bevy of electrical engineers, software engineers, and even a lawyer. I've had to learn the hardest way that the game allows these things. You have to work with the game as best you can. Otherwise, the mechanics become delegitimized. Yeah, that you do have to be careful with that, because and you do get to where things start stacking, especially when you're high level, because the spells start adding all of these attribute bonuses, and you got knights doing exalt and bards doing whatever the hell bards do, and you end up with so much crap going on that it's a lot of noise. And that is one of the reasons that Mac and Davis wanted to cap the game at 13th level, but where's the fun in that? Where's the fun in that? And I do, there's 2 lawyers at my table too, so I feel for you. I remember they started a legal property ownership role-playing session with me and an innkeeper at one point. It ended very abruptly with the threats of death. The good news, CNC is so much better in this than 3rd edition D&D and even 5e. I think so. I think that it's simple enough, and I'm getting a better handle on what's going on in 5e. That CNC is simple enough that it kind of dodges a lot of that. Not always, as clearly I ran into last week, but it dodges it to some degree. Let's see. Hi, Steve. It's David West from Nebraska. Hey, David, how's it going, man? It is a long time. Good God, it's got to be 15 years. Good Lord. I hope all is well with you out in that neck of the woods. I was reading about Nebraska yesterday. Oh yeah, the Pawnee. I was reading about the Pawnee and how they what river goes through the center of Nebraska. I can't remember now. But I was reading about it just yesterday. I finished reading Karl Edward Wagner. Did you say Wagner? Wagner's Dark Crusade yesterday. I haven't read that book in God knows how long. Thoroughly enjoyed the book. It was still as entertaining as it was way back then. I couldn't remember anything about it or what was happening. And so there were some nice surprise turns and twists, and kind of your anti-Conan, and of course who my favorite D&D character, Kane, was named after. Yeah, I think I'm going to dive into Bloodstone. I think I've got Bloodstone on the shelf. I'm torn between Bloodstone and Robert E. Howard's Hour of the Dragon. I feel like I should read Hour of the Dragon because the Kickstarter we got going on right now, but I don't really want to. So I'm probably going to read Bloodstone. I've got old paperbacks that I bought back in the woebegone days, and I don't know, I've really, in the last, I normally read history. In the last couple weeks, I've just been reading a lot of fiction. I have no idea why. Give my tired old brain a rest, I suppose. I'm tired of learning. I got no more learning left in me. There you go. Yes, Frazetta covers. Yeah, in fact, the Dark Crusade has my favorite Frazetta painting of all time. The winged helmet with the axe and the guy with the red beard and axe coming through. That's right up there with Conan fighting the 3 frost giants. I'm not sure which one would be my favorite. I think it's the winged helm cover. Absolutely, it's one of the most dynamic pieces of art I have ever seen. Evocative, and captures everything that I want to play in a role-playing game. When I'm playing a character, that piece of art captures everything that I want to do with it. Frazetta is something else. It's been a pleasure working. Excuse me, it's been an absolutely pleasure. No, it's not the Death Dealer. Hold 1 second. I got the book right here. I just tossed it on the bookshelf. It's an old, battered. Let's see if that one. Whoop, whoop. Yeah. That is probably my absolute favorite Frazetta next to the Frost Giants, Conan and the Frost Giants. I don't know. When I play a role-playing game, that's the type of character that I want to play. I just always die, so I never get that high level. So I never make it. It's you know, I should be a better player. Clearly, if I'm always going to get killed. It's an actual book. Yes, it is. I don't do any e-reading. I've got a pretty extensive library in there, probably about 3,000 to 4,000 books. But yeah, I can't. I've tried trying to read on my wife's Kindle. I just couldn't do it. So it's books for me all the way. Use an Molly Hatchet album. That's right. I forgot about that. Wagner and Howard are the big two of my RPG I'm making. Oh, that's very cool. I mean, they both capture that. Now, Wagner, I'm just going to say it, he's not as good as Howard. He's good. He's not as good as Howard at capturing the evocative emotions, move, and all of that shit. But the thing that Wagner does, Wagner catches me off guard. That's what I like. I'm reading it, and the end isn't how, you know, you expect it to be kind of predictable. Who did the Game of Thrones? J.R.R. Martin. Stuff's kind of predictable. You're into book 3. You kind of gotten his pattern and his. You know what's going to happen. But Wagner, you have no idea what's going to happen. It's just shit all over that. I actually thought Kane was dead for a while, or in hell or some shit. I was like, what's going on? Is this his last book? Was this the last book that Wagner wrote? I'll have to use the line. Well, it's not like I have as many books as Steve does. There you go. I started buying books way back in 80, 81 when I lived in Germany. But I remember when I moved out on my own, I was renting this room from this girl who owned a house, and I worked at Danvers, a burger joint. Was it Danvers? I think it was Danvers. I don't know. It's a long time ago. But my check, one third would go to rent and whatever, and the third would go to food and insurance and whatever. Of course, it was a lot cheaper in 1986. And then 1/3 went to Walden Books. So I would just go buy books and just pile, and I just got piles of them all over the place. Have you tried an e-ink display? I have not. I don't know what I tried. I think just the Kindle, and this was about 10 years ago. I really, honestly, one of the pleasures, and I mean pure pleasures that I take in life next to drinking Dr. Pepper, which to me is an absolute pleasure, is the smell. I love the smell of paper. I love books. I like when you're holding a book, this is really weird, but I like it orderly. I just finished a history book. What the hell was that book? Whatever. And the pages were, everything was so perfectly even all over the place. It was just a pleasure. Just forget the content. Reading the book itself was a pleasure. So I take a lot of pleasure in it, which I can't get from an e-reader or whatever. E-books versus a color screen. Do you have any actual bookstores to poke around in? Sort of like how you go looking for albums? Hardly any. There's a used paperback store over by one of the big hospitals, and then Barnes & Noble's about it. What I do now mostly is go online, and there's a site called biblio.com that's got great search parameters, and you can go in and kind of tell what you're getting, but it's obviously not the same experience as going to a bookstore and kind of poking through. Now, having said that, Dixon Street Bookstore in Fayetteville, Arkansas is one of the biggest bookstores I've ever been into, and it is huge. But every time I go to a convention, like when I was out in LA last year, or year before last now, I guess with COVID, before on the airplane, even before I got to LA, I was writing down bookstores that I want to go to. So I went to these giant bookstores and came back with mountains of books. And I do it up in Madison. It's got a fantastic Madison, Wisconsin's got 2 fantastic bookstores. If you're ever up in that neck of the woods, it's just good stuff. For me, Wagner's Kane is a perfect hybrid of Conan and Elric. Both the character and the nature of the storytelling, Kane is like a gothic villain. Oh, that's an interesting comparison. I like that. A huge Elric fan, too. I absolutely love the Moorcock material. I like Coram more than I do Elric, but yeah, anything by Malcolm Moorcock. Yeah, Statler, I wish I had a bookstore. We used to have a really good one here, but they closed up a couple years back. Walden Books and their Other Worlds Club. Oh, yeah. I forgot all about the Other Worlds Club. There were 3 in those days. It was Walden Books and 2 other bookstores just like, I can't remember what they're called. Yeah, one was in the mall. Walden Books was in the mall, and I can't remember, but a long time ago. No idea for a cologne book paper. So have I told you guys, this is one of the funniest things I've ever encountered. So I'm at a comic book store 20 years ago, and I pulled out some old Green Lanterns because I buy Silver Age comic books. And so I'm at the counter looking at these things. I think I've told you guys this, but I'm looking at these comic books. Two kids, young kids standing next to me, and then the shop owner. And I was holding the comic book, and I remember saying to him, man, I love the smell of this newsprint. I love the smell of this old comic book. And that kid standing next to me, he's like 10 or 12, I don't know who he was. He was holding some Image comics, probably, God knows whatever. Spawn, maybe. And he said, the kid goes, yeah, I love that smell too. It's like cat urine in a litter box or some shit, like old cat urine. Like, son of a bitch. It was so funny. I just fell over laughing. It was just so funny. New book smells. It is. I love new book smells. Better than new car smell. It smells like Victor. Yeah, there you go. I concur, Steve. I've been working on rebuilding my physical library. Only have a few hundred books though. It's nice. It's really not. Books are just nice. They're just comforting. There they are. And plus they're like insulation, right? You can put them in your house, and it's I don't know, 6 inches of insulation. That's gotta count for something, right? It's gotta bring your heating and cooling bills down. Modern Kindles, the Paperwhite, is much easier to read than the first and second gen versions from years ago. No substitute for a physical book. Easier for traveling. Oh, let me tell you, Chicory, my wife, well, she probably reads 2 books a week. They're all on Kindle, and she can transport her entire library wherever she goes. She loves it. She loves reading, and she loves that Kindle. She thinks I'm an idiot because when we go places, I'll always bring 2 books in case I finish the book I'm reading. So I've got just shit, and she's like, "Why don't you just bring a Kindle?" The last time we traveled together, she forgot to bring her charger, so her Kindle died. So I got a moment of exaltation over that. B. Dalton, yes, that was it. B. Dalton Bookstore. It's a good bookstore. Not quite as good as Walden Books, but it was a good bookstore. There was a third one in there somewhere too, I think. We need to get that tattooed on Steve's arm so he doesn't forget again. Steve's going to forget everything. I quite enjoyed a novel idea bookstore in Lincoln, Nebraska. Lots of solid secondhand sci-fi and fantasy. When I was there a few years back, I almost went up through Nebraska. And that's one of the things I do when I travel is I try to plot out bookstores that I can go to. Because they're not hard to find. There's a lot of bookstores out there. People still read books. Hell, they read books as much now as they ever had. It's just finding them. And I think Little Rock doesn't have... There's no university. There's one university here. It's very small, so it just doesn't have the market for it. That's where I bought many of the RPG Lone Wolf fantasy novels from. Let's see. There are 2 awesome used bookstores in my town. Weirdly, they're right next to door to one. That's how the ones in Madison are. Is it Madison? Yeah, they're literally like one's upstairs and the other one's downstairs. So it makes it easy to go book shopping then. Let's see. What are they doing? Books equal real treasure. Yes, they do. Absolutely love books. I get weirded out if I see photos of a home without books. As well you should. That's the best excuse ever for libraries. Look, honey, I'm simply insulating my game room. There you go. That's it. I mean, it literally has got to count for something. So if you go through this wall, that entire wall, all the way to the end, and most of the other wall, and then the other wall, it's just bookshelves all the way around. Most of them are history books, so they're probably 6 to 8 inches thick. This thick that way. Well, I'm not a construction guy, so I don't know if that works or not. Let's see, I've been there way back when I worked and went to school in Lincoln. Bookstores are just wonderful. If you ever find yourselves in Fayetteville, Arkansas, I have no idea why you would find yourself in Fayetteville, Arkansas, but there is a place called Dixon Street Books. Definitely go. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a place in LA I went to that was absolutely fantastic. I mean, it just had rows and rows and rows of books. It was just an amazing bookstore. Our local library has book sales twice a year, donated books, so you never know what you'll find. Picked up a limited printing hardback of half of the Kane books for $5. Still looking for the second volume. Hope it's not an arm lock. That's very cool, and that's a great lead too, because if the libraries don't give a shit, they're if it doesn't get checked out, they want it off the shelf, so they can get things that will get checked out. And it is a great place to find. It's a great place to find books. I'm not allowed to buy it on the bookshelf, as I'm in a third-story apartment. I would wonder if, yeah. And moving them. Tim actually got rid of most of his books when he moved down from Maine to, he moved his dad from Arkansas to Maine. Whatever the hell he did. He did something. He's moving a bunch of shit. And he ended up getting rid of most of his books because he couldn't take it. And Tim is a Kindle guy now because he can carry it in your hand. which is, it's not a bad thing. All right, on that note, I think we're going to wind down. Wait a minute, my friend who I was visiting as best man for his wedding is also quite a fan of sci-fi, so we both happily browsed in there for a while. That's a good thing, but you can find someone in the bookshop with you. They're not talking to you, they're not bothering you. They do their thing, you do your thing, and you're not in any kind of hurry to get out of it. That's the best type of bookshop experience, without a doubt. Tim's good for that. So if you're ever with Tim, he'll go do his own book shopping. So, all right. Yeah. On that note, we're gonna wind down. Thank you all for stopping by. I have friends who stopped offering to help me move. Yeah, that's probably where I am. So there you go. All right, everybody. You have a great rest of your week. We're gonna get those CKGs rolling out tomorrow. Get this thing wrapped up and get these things in your hand and solve the other problems. Push the other problems for next week. And that's the troll way to do it. Thank you all for showing up. Spread the word on the Kickstarter, please. And I'm going to go eat some dinner. We'll see you later. Take it easy, everybody.